You've heard of Apple, you've heard of Google, you've heard of Nvidia. These are the names that dominate headlines, stock market conversations, and tech debates at every dinner table. But right now, as you watch this video, whether you're on your phone, your laptop, connected to Wi-Fi, or streaming from a data center, there is a $600 billion company quietly collecting a fee, and you've probably never heard of it. It's called Broadcom. While Apple fights Samsung for your attention, and Google battles OpenAI for your searches, Broadcom doesn't compete for anything. It doesn't need to. It has already won. It built the invisible infrastructure underneath the entire internet, the chips in your router, the switches inside massive data centers, the connective tissue that holds the digital world together, and it sits at every single toll booth, collecting quietly. But here's where the story gets darker. In recent years, Broadcom hasn't just been collecting tolls, it's been raising them, dramatically. And the companies being squeezed, some of the biggest enterprises on the planet, are starting to call it exactly what it looks like, a hostage situation. Today, we're breaking down how Broadcom became a quiet monopoly, the ruthless acquire and squeeze playbook of its CEO Hock Tan, and why its $69 billion takeover of VMware is sending shockwaves through the global tech industry. Let's get into it. To understand why Broadcom is so powerful, you first need to understand what it actually does, because it is nothing like the tech companies you're used to. Broadcom doesn't make iPhones. It doesn't run a search engine. It doesn't build data centers. What it does is design the chips that go inside all of those things. Specifically, Broadcom is what's known as a fabless chip maker. That means they design the semiconductors. They engineer the brains, but they don't do the actual manufacturing. They hand off production to foundries like TSMC in Taiwan, keeping their own operation lean and extraordinarily profitable. And the chips they design? They are everywhere. Think about your home Wi-Fi router. There is a very strong chance it runs on a Broadcom Wi-Fi chipset. With the rollout of Wi-Fi 6 and now Wi-Fi 7, Broadcom holds a dominant market position in the chipsets powering these faster, more reliable networks. Every time you stream a movie, join a video call, or send a message over Wi-Fi, you are almost certainly using Broadcom silicon to do it. Now scale that up. Inside the massive data centers run by Amazon, Microsoft and Google, the ones that power cloud computing for billions of people, there are networking chips called switching chips that direct traffic between thousands of servers at incredible speeds. Broadcom dominates that market too. Their Tomahawk and Trident chip families are the backbone of how data moves inside these facilities. Here's the analogy that brings it all together. If the internet is a highway system, Broadcom owns the asphalt, the traffic lights, and the toll booths. They didn't build the cars, they don't drive the cars, but nothing moves without going through their infrastructure. That is the foundation of their power. And it's a foundation that one man has turned into something far more aggressive. His name is Hock Tan, and he is one of the most quietly feared CEOs in the entire technology industry. Tan was born in Malaysia, educated at MIT and Harvard Business School, and spent decades in private equity and semiconductor management before taking over Broadcom in 2006. Under his leadership, the company transformed from a mid-sized chip designer into one of the most profitable, feared, and controversial tech empires in the world. His strategy has a name inside the industry. People call it acquire, cut, and monetize. Here's how it works. Broadcom is not a company that innovates from scratch. It does not have a culture of building new products and disrupting markets. Instead, Hock Tan identifies companies that already dominate their niche, companies with large, loyal, and critically dependent customer bases, and he acquires them. Then, almost immediately, the cutting begins. R&D budgets get slashed. Customer support teams are reduced. The products are no longer developed aggressively. They are maintained. And the revenue model shifts, almost always, from traditional licensing toward expensive, recurring subscriptions. The genius and the cruelty of this model is in what Broadcom targets. They don't buy companies whose customers can easily walk away. They specifically hunt for what the industry calls mission-critical software. These are the tools so deeply embedded in how enterprises operate that ripping them out would cost more than simply paying whatever Broadcom charges. It's like a landlord who buys the only building in town and then starts raising rent, knowing you can't move your factory somewhere else. Look at the track record. In 2018, Broadcom acquired CA Technologies, a decades-old enterprise software firm, for $18.9 billion. Layoffs followed almost immediately. In 2019, they acquired Symantec's enterprise security division. Same playbook. Cut the workforce, kill the R&D spending, lock customers into new contracts, raise prices. Each acquisition added another critical layer of enterprise dependency to Broadcom's portfolio. Each one gave Hock Tan more leverage over more companies, and each one was a rehearsal for what was coming next, the biggest, boldest, and most controversial move in the company's history. In 2023, after an extended regulatory battle across multiple continents, Broadcom completed its acquisition of VMware for approximately $69 billion. It was one of the largest technology deals ever recorded, and for thousands of companies around the world, it immediately set off alarm bells. So what is VMware, and why does it matter so much? VMware makes software that allows companies to run multiple virtual machines on a single physical server. In simple terms, it's the software that lets one computer pretend to be many computers, and that capability is foundational to how modern enterprise IT operates. An estimated 400,000 companies worldwide use VMware products. Banks, hospitals, government agencies, airlines, logistics companies, organizations whose entire digital operations depend on this software running reliably every single day. That is exactly the kind of customer base Hock Tan looks for. Captive, critical, and costly to replace. Within months of the acquisition closing, Broadcom executed its playbook at scale. The first move was eliminating perpetual licenses, the model where a company buys software once and owns it indefinitely. Gone. Broadcom forced customers onto subscription bundles, many of which included products they didn't want or need, at prices they had no power to negotiate. The price increases were staggering. Reports from IT departments and industry analysts described renewal costs jumping anywhere from 100% to 800% compared to previous contracts. In extreme cases, some organizations reported cost increases of 2,500%. Not a typo. 2,500%. The response from the enterprise world was a mixture of fury and helplessness. Cloud providers across Europe, organized under a group called CISP, the Cloud Infrastructure Services Providers in Europe, filed formal antitrust complaints with regulators, describing Broadcom's behavior as holding their entire infrastructure hostage. They used the word bullies publicly and explicitly. But here's the brutal reality of Broadcom's position. When your entire hospital systems run on VMware, and switching to an alternative would take years and hundreds of millions of dollars in migration costs, you pay whatever Broadcom charges. That is not a free market. That is a toll booth with no alternate road. Broadcom's behavior with VMware didn't come out of nowhere. The company has a documented history with regulators stretching back years. The Federal Trade Commission in the United States previously accused Broadcom of using what they described as strong-arm tactics, forcing customers into exclusive deals that deliberately blocked competitors from even being considered. In 2021, Broadcom settled with the FTC, agreeing to a set of restrictions on its conduct. But settlements rarely change behavior in a fundamental way. They change behavior at the margin. And then the next acquisition comes. The deeper question this story raises is about the nature of modern monopolies. We tend to think of monopolies in old-fashioned terms, a single company controlling a visible consumer market. Standard Oil, AT&T. But Broadcom represents something different and in some ways more powerful, an invisible infrastructure monopoly. You don't see Broadcom. You don't buy Broadcom products at a store. You can't choose to switch to a competitor the way you might switch streaming services. Broadcom's power operates below the surface of the economy, embedded in the physical and software layers that everything else runs on top of. And the company isn't finished growing. As artificial intelligence reshapes the entire tech industry, Broadcom has quietly positioned itself as one of the hidden winners. They are designing custom AI accelerator chips, specialized processors for running AI workloads, for companies like Google and Meta. While the world debates Nvidia's dominance in AI hardware, Broadcom is building the custom silicon underneath some of the world's most powerful AI systems. The question regulators, enterprises, and governments are now grappling with is a simple but uncomfortable one. Can anyone actually stop them? Or has the world become so dependent on Broadcom's toll booths that fighting back is no longer economically viable? Broadcom is the perfect example of how modern monopolies actually work. They don't need to be a household name. They don't need a charismatic founder on magazine covers. They don't need you to love their brand. They just need to be unswappable. They need to be the thing you absolutely cannot remove without catastrophic disruption. And then they need to acquire more things just like it. Hock Tan has built a machine designed around that exact principle. Buy the critical software, kill the perpetual licenses, raise the prices, move on to the next acquisition, repeat. And here's the part that affects you directly, even if you've never bought a single Broadcom product in your life. Every time a hospital pays 800% more for its VMware renewal, that cost flows somewhere. Every time an airline or a bank or a logistics company absorbs a multi-million-dollar price hike from Broadcom, it factors into the prices you pay for flights, for financial services, for the goods delivered to your door. The Broadcom tax doesn't stay in the boardroom. It trickles down. The question isn't whether Broadcom is powerful. That much is settled. The real question is whether we've already passed the point where anyone, regulators, governments, competitors, can meaningfully push back. If you found this breakdown valuable, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into the companies, systems, and strategies quietly shaping your financial world. Thanks for watching.